A fun drinking game for those of you who are watching at home. Drink every time I say black metal. Black metal, the final frontier. This is usually the case for metalheads who seek a path of heavier music over time, and is usually considered as a dangerous or uncharted genre of music up until about a decade ago before it started to achieve a little bit of mainstream success. The early days of this style of music is fraught with terrible audio quality, not understanding what midsections are on an amp, corpse paint masks, carrying more nails than a hardware shop, standing in forests or snowy fields, performing concerts for crowds of up to 20 people, burning churches down, and even murder. Oh, and everything had to be black.
Blacker than the blackest black, times infinity.
So of course it only makes sense that this community would eventually become mainstream. No, wait, that's not true. It defies any logic at all. Well, anyway, on this episode we will discuss the new album by a one-man band and its possible connections to AI. Hi people, and hello my Chili Concarnish, it's Chili here, the man who produces Design from My Eyes, doing a review on Draugveil's newest album, Cruel World of Dreams. This is the black metal album cover that broke the internet. That instance, as much as it is a joke, is mirroring the artwork itself, because in a world that is filled with so many bands that are trying to come across as the edgiest thing in the field, it always seems to be the same cookie cutter generic bullshit posed in some forest or some snowy field that it has become a meme at this stage. Look, I get why Norway and other Scandinavian countries are embracing this music scene, and I think that it's awesome, but let's admit that nothing in this field will ever come as close to the artwork for Mayhem's The Dawn of Black Hearts. If you know, you know. In this day and age, the only way you can make an album artwork cover that is impactful is either create something that nobody would expect, like Death Haven did with Sunbather, or lean into the joke and create an album cover so outrageous in its quality that people question if it was intentionally done as a meme, or if it was created by AI itself, or even if it is the real deal and the artist was unaware of its magical prowess behind the levels of cringe on here. Either way, no one was prepared for this, intended or not. This is the metal album as a community in a stupor, and in a field that thrives from releases from unknown and underground artists most people will of course never heard of, but the community see of course as a badge of honor if they have. This album poses a serious problem. If this is your introduction to the field, then it might make you question just what the fuck this subgenre has to offer. And while I'm not a connoisseur of this style of music, I do take interest in certain bands like Venom, Emperor, Dark Throne, Immortal, or even a bit of Mayhem. And from my limited pantheon, I can say that this album does the genre a disservice to the musical style, while also being a decent representation at the same time. However, this is not the band that you want to begin your journey on if you want to get into this type of music. So let's address the accusations of AI regarding this album. Many have accused the musician of composing this entire record entirely from AI, from the music itself to the album cover, and there is good reasons to believe this was made by such methods. In an interview that was given by the musician when he was in his former band, Gore Party, he was questioned for using AI in that band too, and his response was, and I quote, "Let the people decide. I just made art and showed it to the world. Thank you, Rock of All Ages, for finding that interesting bit of information, and make of that what you will." So the accusations have merit, and he has never directly addressed them before, but then again, it's a great marketing strategy to leave in an air of mystery as well, so people like myself and many others get to talking about this album. Now, whether this is to the detriment of the music on here is yet to be discussed in depth, but I will say that I don't think AI wrote this album, and I'll cover why later on. For me, this album's artwork screams of a checklist of what to expect on your typical album cover, with roses thrown in the mix, and a pose like Michael Jackson made. No, wait, scratch that joke. They took what would be a typical black metal style album cover and crossed it with that T-Pain album on top of the cover, except it's devoid of any production value that at least T-Pain's album has. Now, I couldn't quite say there was any musical sustenance on here, perhaps maybe due to the quality of the music that can be heard. Also, my disdain for what I was hearing, or a bit of both, because there is much better out there right now. We have an album that is made up of 10 songs, is 30 minutes long, and contains 3 instrumentals, which are perhaps the better pieces on this album. and they were interludes. The start of this album, Night Without a Name, contains some of the weirdest drumming I've heard in a long time. The fills sound so crowded, and even by black metal standards, it's a crowded shit show, which I can't believe is probably the highlight of the album. Who am I kidding? That would be Moonlight Resurrection, because if you're gonna be resurrected in the forest of Norway by some black magic, didn't say black metal, except now I did. But if you're going to be resurrected by some kind of black magic ritual, of course it has to be by a moonlit ordeal. Fucking Twilight fans. Vortex is a showcase of unimaginative looping as the guitars feel uninspired and the song just drags on. Also, the song's drum pattern is exactly the same as Etched Oath. Were those rough demos or alternative takes? I can't tell, and nor do I care. I don't know whether to make up from down about this album. It's not memorable, and that's the best thing I can say about this record ultimately, and something that can be forgotten by one night of binge drinking, luckily enough. Now, I never quite understood what was the appeal in lo-fi audio production qualities for the black metal scene. It just never sounded good and made me feel like I was getting the onset of early tinnitus. At least we have moved away from this style over the last 25 plus years and into the realms of music that is actually good. Yeah, I said it, you purists. Hate me if you want, but you know it's true. Just sprinkle a little amount of audio production in the mix and you might actually have a half decent album. This record just takes a nosedive into those 8-track tape style recordings, except that it sounds like it was recorded off another tape deck and then recorded off another tape deck and then recorded off another tape deck and is in fact now that recording of that other tape deck. It's so bad in fact that I think when I'm listening to it on any streaming device it might just burst into flames and just wreck the actual original copy that it was recorded on. Fingers crossed that happens. To me, this album sounds more like an art student project than an actual band, which is more than likely the real reason for this album's existence. If it was created by AI, then I have to wonder what misguided notions AI has surrounded this subgenre to how it actually sounds. What directives was given to the AI programming for this music? In an age where the growing trend is AI generated images and YouTube videos which are being churned out faster than Buckethead albums, it did make me think as of late how long it would be until we started seeing AI being used to write music. I always figured if there was any field that was going to get the AI treatment, then lo-fi would surely be the first one due to it being very repetitive and not as nuanced as other styles. AI is an issue that gets misinterpreted more and more these days to such a degree that we often question our reality. But in the realm of music, it could never happen, surely. I'll paraphrase Neil deGrasse Tyson here, but the day AI deepfakes us all is the day that the internet will explode. And this album did make the metal community explode. It's been long established that music has always been seen as one of those last outlets that is an untouchable realm for this technology. I mean, to show creativity, that's some Blade Runner levels of shit right there. I do not believe this album was generated by AI. Instead, I believe it is so bad that in this day and age, people will seek any explanation to their questions and they will jump to this conclusion simply because they want to deny that any person could write this tripe. So it has to be robots, of course. I don't think any instrumentation was faked. It has been played by humans with perhaps the only exception being to a drum machine looping their parts over and over, as is evident when you hear the intro for Vortex and Etched Oath, which is the exact same drum pattern. I think since this album was self-produced, the musician cut corners where he could, and they tried to capture that raw black metal recording on tape underground sound that is synonymous to the scene, that they even reduced the quality in the production as to make it as shit as possible or on purpose. I also don't believe any evidence to believe this album's artwork was created by AI. It doesn't have the degree of weird irrational thoughts or unusual AI flaws found within. See Paris Hilton's album cover with her mysterious extra hand as an example. I think this is just a dumb photo shoot that has become a meme, and the musician knows this and as such has leaned into this fact, knowing that it will spread through the internet like wildfire, and clearly it is working, because over at YouTube his album has 130,000 views and on his Spotify monthly listeners he's peaking at nearly 50,000 views. Now while those numbers seem really tiny, you have to keep in mind that this is coming from the niche field of black metal. As a frame of reference, the bands that I mentioned at the very start of this episode, who could be called either the pioneers of the field, or at least the big names within, are only slightly ahead of this in the numbers game. I mean, Immortal has a monthly listener base of 180,000, and Mayhem, who has been around for 35 years and arguably revived the second wave of black metal, has a monthly subscriber base of 300,000 people. So a new artist who has only released their debut album a few weeks ago has just done the unimaginable by having a fan base that is nearly 20% the total size of Mayhem's, and they did so thanks to meme-based fame. Congratulations. At best, you have done the unimaginable by achieving success through a meme-based piece of artwork during a slow week. Or at worst, you have just shown the black metal community for what it is. A pretentious bunch of gatekeepers who are a joke. I don't know what to make of this because I think both were achieved, but simultaneously neither was the goal. You just have someone who is riding a wave and knows how to surf while looking like Gene Simmons crying after no one has paid him any attention in 10 minutes. Congratulations, I suppose? Overall, I'm going to give this album a score of 1 million chilies on the spicy scale, and I guess with a score like this, you can expect to see this album on my worst albums of the year list. I think to some degree, this album might just serve as a giant trolling effort, with commentators even stating that this is going to be album of the year material and just riding along with the joke. I'm just going to let that one sink in for a minute. As for the music on hand, well, I couldn't think of anything funny to say, because the album itself is the punchline. If this serves as your introduction to black metal, I just pity you. Go listen to some Slipknot again, and of course recuperate, and then try again next year with literally anything else. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts on this album, so comment below, and as always, stay spicy out there. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content, because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.